So good morning, everybody. My name is Sacha Gera, and I head up product management and engineering at Kandy.io. Kandy is a 3-year-old startup in a bigger company called Ribbon Communications. How many of you have heard of Ribbon? That's more than expected, given that we're only 3 weeks old. Ribbon is the amalgamation of Sonos and Genband, two veterans in the real-time communications industry. Collectively, we're a global leader in session border controllers, application servers, call control, media gateways, and an emerging part of our business is around cloud communications, which is really what Kandy is all about. Now, like any startup, where we started 3 years ago and where we are today are two very different places, and we've learned a lot. It's taken us a little bit of time to kind of find our niche. But if you kind of rewind to 3 years ago, Kandy was very much a self-service CPaaS. We were early to market. We were going out with the Kandy bus, racking up developers. That was really our mission in life. And we had a big Kandy bus. It was a lot of fun. We learned a lot. But after about 18 months, a couple things became kind of clear for us. The first is developing a developer community is very difficult. Kudos to our friends in California. It's hard to do. And second, it was hard for us to figure out a way to actually make money. After all, we were a business, and selling APIs and SDKs and getting the developer community going takes a lot of patience and persistence. But thirdly, and probably most importantly, at the DNA of what at the time was Genband was a base of carriers, over 700 carrier customers, and a large global sales force that was kind of wondering, what do we do with Kandy? You're in the self-service, swipe your credit card, do-it-yourself business. How do I sell that to carriers? And about 18 months ago, we kind of had this inflection point where we decided that Kandy was going to pivot. We were going to be a white label platform as a service provider for communication service providers to go out and develop their own Twilios, develop their own RingCentrals, develop their own WhatsApps. That became our motto in life. But our mission was really around twofold. We wanted to bring the agility of a SaaS-based entrant into the telecommunications space, but at the same time, amplify what makes the carriers different, which we obviously understood very well coming from, at the time, Genband. And what I mean by that is the quality of service, the last mile, the existing billing relationships. I think a good example yesterday, Sebastian DTMer, who's obviously a key partner for us in Kandy, who've built their managed OTT on the Kandy platform, is a phenomenal example of that, where it's not just a messaging app, it's actually voice-centric first, but they've integrated that last mile with their signaling and other aspects of their network, where they can fall back to the circuit switch when I'm in a zone without good data coverage, for example. That's something a WhatsApp can't do. And that, for us, is very compelling. So yesterday, you heard a little bit about how some of our partners, like DTMer, are building on top of our platform on the consumer space. Today, I'm going to focus a little bit more on the enterprise space, what we call Kandy Business Solutions. And I want to talk a little bit about our vision before we kind of take you through the journey of how communication service providers and some ISVs are trying to accelerate their revenues using the Kandy platform. One of the things that became very clear for us a couple of years ago was the overlay of CPaaS on top of UCaaS. And I think we've all heard of the various M&A events in the industry that have more than validated this, whether it's the ShoreTel, Mitel tie-up, the Tropo and Cisco tie-up, the Vonage, Nexmo, et cetera, et cetera. And if you think about it, we've been in the UCaaS business for some time, the white label UCaaS business, that is. And for years, carriers, tier 2s, tier 3s, value-added resellers have made a lot of money. Think about it, our desk phone has become a soft phone, our static office has become a mobile office, and productivity in the workplace with ICT technologies has really taken shape. It's taken a decade, but we're finally here. CPaaS just takes it to a whole other level. And if you think about it, the ability to use WebRTC technologies and opened up those telecommunication wall gardens with simplified RESTful APIs, opens up the ecosystem and the ability for third parties to come in, develop digital solutions that we can come and put into a digital marketplace that we can white label and offer to communication service providers. And that's really our vision, especially over the next few years, is that CPaaS, UCaaS overlay, creating the digital marketplace with third parties, bring them into the digital marketplace, helping carriers white label that, and going to market. Because it's all about rapid service creation and digital solutions, not so much about the technology underneath. So that's around the CPaaS UCaaS overlay. I'll just talk about the nice, pretty picture on the right, because specifically, we heard yesterday, I think, from a few folks on creating value-added solutions and moving up the vertical stack. And particularly in the financial vertical, where we're seeing a very systemic trend is around this age-old idea of one pane of glass. And think about it, folks have invested tremendously in their on-premise PBX, or maybe move that to a carrier-based UCaaS service. They've got a desk phone, a soft phone, which may have instant messaging and other video and presence type applications. On the desktop and the mobile, I've got 1, 2, maybe 3 messaging services. And just think about it during the day, I'm getting hit by all kinds of real-time communications. And so the concept of one pane of glass is very important, especially for folks in the financial vertical. And we're seeing a big theme here. And not only just around that, but securitizing that. So when we talk about programmable telecoms, it goes beyond APIs and SDKs. It goes along the lines of bridging in disparate messaging with existing UCaaS services in one pane of glass in such a way that is programmable and customizable for CIO and enterprise organizations. And we're going to talk a little bit about that as we get through this. So let's take you on a little journey of how we're starting to help Kandy customers, carriers, build revenue. And I'm going to probably start with the least interesting part of this story, which is the activation or the orchestration engine, which dubs as our digital marketplace. A couple years ago, we invested heavily in our Kandy Business Solutions white label portal. It's more than an orchestration engine. What this facilitates is for carriers to come in, brand their own digital marketplace with their label, their colors, create their own digital catalog with their own SKU codes, okay? Put their own pricing in, their discounting in, their T's and C's, and activate and orchestrate all outside of their OSS and BSS. Why is it important? Because we all know that you're only as fast as the slowest thing in your supply chain. Typically for a carrier, that's integration with OSS and BSS. Marketing and innovation folks typically in carriers want to go to market quickly. They want to fail fast. They want to succeed faster. This is a great solution to enable carriers to go out onto the playground and trial new services. So with our Kandy Business Services portal, our digital marketplace, today we have all kinds of UCaaS and CPaaS offerings that are available. Increasingly, we're adding third parties. Thomas is going to join me up on stage in a bit. He's from Five9, one of our partners. And we're starting to now resell contact center as a service, for example, Five9's in our digital marketplace. And conversely, they're starting to resell our UCaaS services as well. So the journey starts with the white label portal. Once that's in place, typically what we found is SIP trunking is the base denominator for many of the innovative services going on. We talked about UCaaS being kind of a stronghold for carriers today. But to really CPaaS enable that innovation, you've got to open up the wall garden, and SIP trunking is key there. Converting that branch plant to an IP-enabled branch plant is very important. And SIP trunking, we all know, is a massive industry. $9 billion a year, depending on what analysts you read. SIP trunking as a service is a huge market that will continue to grow for many years. Average revenue per year is moving down. It's becoming increasingly crowded. Why? Because over-the-tops are coming in. You don't necessarily need the MPLS and the transport layer. Over-the-top for SIP trunking is becoming increasingly popular. We're seeing that because technologies like SD-WAN and the internet in general is just a lot more reliable than it used to be. And so one of the offers that we started to go out with about 6 months ago was SIP trunking as a service, which facilitates carriers to white label the service, put together a push-button SIP trunking service akin to some of the over-the-top providers out there, and get your SIP trunk up and ready in a matter of minutes, less than 5 minutes. And once you've got the SIP trunk enabled, we're able to do all kinds of cool things and overlay the CPaaS on top. Now, in addition to just plain old vanilla, let's get my SIP trunk up and ready quickly, one of the other plays here for us is as more carriers bolt on to the Kandy platform, we're more easily able to federate carriers across jurisdictions and globally, which allows you to go after multinationals and makes it a little bit more seamless and frictionless for a carrier to pursue those multinationals. So with the SIP trunking in place, having those registered users in our CPaaS, we're able to go out and webify SIP trunks. It's not just a bit about anonymous alerts and notifications anymore that pretty much anybody can do with SMS. We're able to access the employees inside of those enterprises. Now, we had a lot of lessons learned as we started off as very much a do-it-yourself, self-service CPaaS, really, which was, I guess, C here on this chart. What we realized, similar to some of the folks yesterday, is that prepackaged solutions, at least for the bulk of enterprises, is still where it's at. That's changing over time, but prepackaged solutions are very important. The last couple of years, we've invested heavily in turnkey real-time communications clients. We have folks who are using our mobile SDKs to go out and develop that. We've also got what we call our omni-container business clients, which we'll talk about in a bit, and prepackaged wrappers, which are essentially turnkey digital solutions, prepackaged APIs and SDKs with a little bit of JavaScript code around them. And increasingly, we're working with third-party ecosystem partners to build more solutions into our marketplace. So I mentioned at the start, one of our key vision around the financial vertical in particular is around that one pane of glass. It's an age-old story. It's been a pipe dream. But for us, this is starting to become reality, especially from the aspect of being in the space of programmable telecoms. How do we go out and enable this, and what's going on here? I'm going to start with the back end, and I'm going to work my way to the front end here, and we'll show you a quick video demo. But on the back end, we've been investing in our WebRTC gateway for over 6 years. We believe we have the highest scale, multi-tenant, highest grade, carrier grade WebRTC gateway in the market. And this has evolved over time. That WebRTC gateway is great. Why? Because it allows us to bolt on to the carrier's network, their BroadSoft, their Cisco, their Asterisk, their application server that might be from us. We don't really care. We're agnostic to it. And really mask that complexity on the back end and open it up with RESTful APIs on the front end. That enables the ecosystems and the third parties to come in and develop. We can bolt on to the SIP protocols and various other legacy protocols and RESTfully enable that on the front end. The WebRTC gateway is a monolithic piece of software that's been developed that is now evolving to a microservices architecture based on Kubernetes and Dockerized containers. These value-added services are going to facilitate us to do more flexible deployment models like hybrid cloud, which allow us to drop microservices from the cloud into the carrier premise to do things like push notifications, a centralized presence broker, a messaging broker to bolt on to various other third-party messaging services over time. We want to be agnostic to all of that because we recognize that over time, folks will have messaging service 3, 4, 5. They'll continue to leverage the assets they've invested in terms of BroadSoft and Cisco and other call control, and we want to be able to marry it all together. That's the back-end WebRTC gateway. On the front end, we chose a slightly different strategy. We support our mobile SDKs, for example, for the folks who, like Immer, who are developing on top of that, in a consumer-like fashion where native applications are kind of, they make more sense. But in the business aspect, we've learned a lot of lessons over time, and we chose to go the route of a web-based container. We use Cordova on the mobile and Electron web containers on the desktop. These are open source web containers. As computing powers continue to increase, web-based applications, we believe, will increasingly become part of the future because they act and look and feel more like native apps, but they offer unprecedented flexibility. What do I mean? Well, a web-based container, a web-based app, is based on HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. If you're a carrier going out to your enterprise, just think about it. It's much easier to own the UI, UX and have to program in HTML than it is to have to take care of a native application. And with HTML, you're able to change colors, add widgets, do things like that dynamically without having to recompile the entire application. It's much cheaper for a CIO. Makes a lot of sense, especially when I don't have to keep updating my app in the App Store. So we chose to go that route. Second, none of our clients are SIP-enabled anymore. They're all RESTfully API'd CPaaS endpoints. Using WebRTC enables us to take advantage of NAT traversal, firewall traversal, which is fantastic. And again, it's very developer-friendly. We also are able to do mashups because of it. Mash up those disparate messaging services with RESTful APIs, bridge in the real-time communications, the assets from your PBX and your UCaaS offering that already exist. So what does that look like when it all comes together? Well, we're going to show you a quick demo here of our Skype for Business real-time communications client, which is one of our turnkey clients. So what you're going to see here is our Electron-based application. It's a web-based container, but it looks and feels just like a native app. And what we're doing here is we're able to white label this for carriers where they can keep themselves in the billing relationship for voice and video, leverage their existing UC and UCaaS assets that are RESTfully enabled through their CPaaS. but mash up with the Skype for Business offerings at the same time for IMMP, Instant Messaging, Presence, and Address Book. If you can't beat them, you might as well exist together, coexist, and keep yourself in the billing relationship and move yourself up the value chain. So what you're seeing here is the Active Directory provided from a Skype server on-prem or an Office 365. We don't really care. We're able to access the directory. These are all using the public APIs and SDKs provided by Microsoft, mashed up in our Omni container client. And what we're also able to do is start in a rich messaging session, again, using the Microsoft APIs. Now, here's where it gets fun for a carrier. We're able to take that messaging and escalate into a voice or video call using RESTful APIs that are now bridging into the carrier's assets through our CPaaS platform. So the voice and video is actually being provided by perhaps a Cisco backend, a BroadSoft backend, or our own application server. So that's an example of how we're really starting to mash things up using our CPaaS platform on the back end and our Omni container client on the front end. So I think it was, I can't remember if it was Tintech or maybe Wazo yesterday, was talking about the need for prepackaged solutions because developing is hard, right? And developing new apps, new wrappers are a big part of our story, but last year in particular, we recognized that we needed to get a head start with more reference applications and digital solutions that could really make APIs and SDKs tangible. So we started investing in Kandy wrappers. Essentially, the idea here is to take APIs and SDKs off of our CPaaS platform, put a little JavaScript code together, and make it very easy by copying and pasting a couple of lines of JavaScript into your web page or your application. You're pretty much ready to go without having to do much coding. A couple of our really popular wrappers that really started as reference apps but have actually become products on their own because people really like them are Visual Attendant and Live Support wrapper. Visual Attendant is a click-to-call visual IVR. Very cool. It's basically got a drag and drop interface, kind of like a IDE or a builder. You don't really have to have any coding experience. Create your own directory trees, click-to-call enable from the website very quickly. Great for millennials who want to stay in context on the web page, hit the right contact center agent, not have to listen to the press 1 for marketing, 2 for sales kind of thing. Live Support's kind of a lightweight contact center in a box. I shouldn't say a box, but in the cloud. And it's for small and medium-sized businesses. It's bot-enabled. We have the mechanism to come in through voice, video chat, but also social connectors as well. A lot of millennials want to contact the contact center through Facebook messaging, Twitter, Slack. We're able to fan in that messaging through our platform into the agent who no longer has to have 12 windows open. They can have one, which is a WebRTC-enabled backend for the agent that can take over a session from a bot who might have been answering the messaging in real time and escalate that into voice, video, screen sharing, et cetera. So very cool stuff off the shelf in our digital marketplace. And of course, where it all started at the basis of all of our wrappers, our turnkey clients, our do-it-yourself APIs and SDKs. We're increasingly seeing more use cases for breaking into those walled gardens of the UC customer base for carriers, our registered users. Of course, we continue to service anonymous type use cases for SMS and notifications. Now, one of our partners, and I'm going to ask Thomas to come up here from Five9s. Five9s is a phenomenal partner with us, and they've used our APIs and SDKs and embedded them into their contact center to enable many of their customers' agents offshore to essentially take their Google Chromebooks and use the power of WebRTC to connect with SIP trunks coming in with folks dialing into the 1-800 numbers. And so I'm going to invite Thomas up here to tell us a little bit about how they're using Kandy and the CPaaS platform and their do-it-yourself APIs and SDKs. And I think first we're going to roll with a video.
Global businesses today want a way to provide prospects and customers with an amazing experience, regardless of where they are in the world. Five9 cloud-based virtual contact center makes this easy to do. Let's take a look. This is Yuki. She manages a band from Japan that's on a US tour, currently in the Pacific Northwest. After an afternoon of visiting the Space Needle and Pike Place Market, they happen upon an online retailer that prints custom t-shirts and hoodies on demand. Yuki thinks it'd be a great idea to buy matching t-shirts to wear for the rest of their trip. And perfect! This looks great! While checking out, Yuki runs into a problem. The billing address she entered doesn't match the address on file for her credit card. She needs some help. Behind the scenes, Five9 Software has recognized this as an opportunity for engagement. Her browsing history and information is forwarded to an agent skilled in both English and Japanese. Based on agent availability and the time of day, the chat is sent to an agent working in a contact center outside of Tokyo, Japan. From within Salesforce, Hero, an omni-channel sales and service agent, is served with a preview screen pop for a potential engagement with Yuki. Five9 uses Yuki's behavior and ordering information to determine potential outcomes and to analyze customer sentiment even before engagement, providing Hero with valuable customer insight within the Salesforce Lightning experience. Looks like Hero will need to reach out to a specialist to further assist Yuki. With Five9 and Skype for Business, Hero is able to find an expert and determine their availability, even if that resource isn't part of the formal contact center.
Hello?
Perfect! Hero has found Peter, a billing expert located in Melbourne, Australia. Five9 uses local voice termination to ensure that voice traffic is terminated close to the users, eliminating voice delay, ensuring a great connection. The Five9 Cloud Contact Center service is a globally available solution built on a modular, microservices-based architecture that helps us help you deliver amazing customer experiences. And just like that, Peter and Hero were able to help resolve Yuki's billing issue. Her custom t-shirts are all set to be delivered to her next destination hotel in San Francisco. Find out more at five9.com.
So I'll talk you through a little bit about Five9's do. Who's heard of Five9? Okay, so there's a few of us. Good to know. For the others, as we can see here, on a cloud, multi-tenant, we provide omni-channel facets for the contact center. So we've come from an age where the premise world, Avaya, Cisco, Aspect, other companies were providing that platform for the customer service department. And Five9 over the last 15 years has brought it into the cloud. It's pure cloud, and it's what we've been doing for quite a while. In fact, I think we can move from here probably to the next screen, and it's just this slide, isn't it? So before I go into that, I want to give a little bit of a customer service as a service is a contact center as a service is an industry that really is going through a revolution at the moment. As I said, we have companies such as Avaya and Aspect who are no longer the major players. And so what we're finding is that we're displacing these companies and providing contact center agent as a service, and therefore taking their payment from a premise CapEx model to OpEx while enriching their features and their benefits. I would go as far as saying we're the Wolverine of our industry, except we don't urinate on our competitors afterwards. Other than that, it's been an interesting time. We have approximately 1,000 employees. Our turnover is 200 million forecasted for next year, a market cap of 1.3 billion. We are the leader in the Gartner quadrant, so specifically for execution. Now, the power of the combination with Kandy is connectivity is still key. And I think as much as omni-channel, dare I say, is going to take people to future-proof, the quality of the call is still vitally important to anyone who wants to contact a customer service department of an enterprise. So what we find with global carrier-grade connectivity, specifically in EMEA, we have exclusivity with Kandy. And I'm excited to grow in this partnership together because not only is that connectivity there, we also have, as Sacha has just mentioned, future-proof applications on open APIs and SDKs, which takes it to the next generation. And as you've mentioned, with the Hulu, these are two case studies here where we see the video streaming, the visual IVR. These are only made a possibility through the Kandy relationship and clearly the Chromebook Agent desktop for customer service. What we're finding as a rule of thumb for formula is every time there is 1,000 UCaaS users, so those who want to use the UC product, there is normally a 100-seat contact center in the business. And coming in together, we find that it's a very powerful combination. And that future-proof application is also enabling us to, and I don't know if any of you guys heard of the United Airlines debacle. Nope. So social media is key. And as Sacha has just said, we need to be able to draw in the feeds from social media to let an enterprise know specifically, at least if there is brand damage going on in the ecosystem. So again, through Kandy, we have opportunity to alert an agent at their desktop that there's been a certain hashtag or there's been a YouTube, something or other place that could damage the brand. Quite some time ago, a local band from America were traveling, and I'm going to tell a story if that's okay, across America. And they were in the airplane. The airline is United Airlines. I'm okay, I can mention that. And they turned out of the window and they noticed guitars were being thrown about. And they were very worried. By the end of the journey, they went and checked their guitar cases, and as you can imagine, they were all broken. They tried to complain to the United Airlines customer service, and they didn't want to hear anything about it. So he went home and wrote a couple of letters. Again, zero effort done, made back. What do you guys think the lead singer of a band is going to do next? Yeah, he wrote a song. He wrote a song. It was called United Break Guitars. And within a month, it had 5 million YouTube users hitting the video. Within 3 months, well, it started expediting and accelerating to around 30 million hits. Now, his name is Dave Carroll, and United Airlines wrote him a check for $250,000, saying, Dave, please bring this down. It's affecting our share price. Now, Dave currently makes his living doing the customer service circuit in seminars, so he didn't take them up on the offer. Why am I telling you that story? Through the relationship with Kandy, we as a contact center service provider can tell an enterprise, look guys, we can make sure your agents are aware of anything that is causing damage to your brand within the contact center. The contact center is the lifeblood of a customer service company. Need to be worried about what their customers are saying. It's the window in which a customer interacts with that enterprise. So people need to have, premium grade quality services available. Again, with the SDKs and the open applications and the APIs, I think specifically make us more robust, more flexible, and able to keep in touch with the next generation, dare I say it. The contact center, well, certainly for me, let me ask, has anyone ever worked in a contact center here? You can put their hands up. Right. So you'll know when I say it's not the most glamorous place to work historically. And in fact, the single biggest cost in a contact center, CEIs will tell you, is the retraining of agents who are there 1 minute and gone the next. It is not a career aspiration to become a contact center agent. Through Kandy and the open APIs we have here, we have something called gamification of the contact center, which engaged Generation Y. I just missed out on that, but apparently gaming is quite big. The biggest YouTube channel is PewDiePie. He's an online gamer and he reviews games. So what we do is, through products that are open APIs with Kandy, we have a contact center engaging in gamification. So suddenly the agent is more engaged in his career as he collects coins and he starts being able to purchase iPads and so on and so forth. He becomes more engaged in his career. There's online e-learning. You collect tokens, and these are just one of the apps I'm mentioning. I mean, I could stand here and I know I don't have much time as the MC stands up, but I'm hopefully giving you guys a flavor of what is achievable. And with Kandy, we're finding Five9 as an enterprise that it's going to be a very exciting future. I think I'm going to stop there. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, no worries.